When choosing which toys to review in video format for CollectionDX.com, one of the rules, or as Scanty and Kneesocks are fond of saying, rule, I can't do it very well, that I follow is that I don't shoot anything that is smaller than my fist. And here's why. Piranacon is just one set amongst, I think it's 5 or 6 others, that are known by trans fans as the Scramble City combiners. Scramble City, for those of you who don't know, was an OVA in Japan, and it took place like right after the series, and I know even less about Scramble City than I do about Masterforce. But it had a lot to do with Pretenders and Headmasters, and even Micromasters to some degree. Anyways, Piranatron, Computron, Superion, Minosaur, and 2 or 3 others that I can't think of off the top of my head. Anyways, all those are based around the concept that you can take a component that usually makes up, say, a leg, the left leg, and you can swap it to become the right arm. And you will see this on each and every Scramble City combiner out there. For example, with Seawing here, he's got that little square head, like the other 5 do, but then he has a hole right here, and then he has, this peg right here, okay? They all have this peg, they all have the little tiny square heads, and they all have those holes in them, and these are located in different areas. Sometimes the head itself is the fold-out peg, and sometimes the hole is, inside the mouth or something like that. And so that means that all of the Seacons here are capable of forming any limb that you want it to, or you can even swap out from a different set. You can take the parts from Superion and plug them into Snaptrap. I mean, that was kind of the gimmick with the Scramble City combiners. That means that there's no particular way that is right or wrong or official in how these limbs are arranged. But for the sake of my own sanity, I will be using the arrangement that appeared when I pulled Piranacon out of the box, which is actually different from how officially it appears in Masterforce. Tentakill has by far the easiest transformation. You just push these back, and that's it. I'm going to be using him as the left leg component, so I will be using the, come on, get a good grip on it, the left foot component. I'm just going to peg that right in there, like so. Nautilus is next. I will be using him for the right leg component, so I'm going to be removing his arms because I need to be able to close these up, and pull that all the way out. Left foot component, slips on there. Seawing will be the left arm component. Now you can have these out or push them back then. I don't care. Or I should say, it doesn't really matter which way you do these. Push this in. Again, watch your fingers on those things. And because he's the right arm, I will stick that there. Probably have the most things to change on Scalar. You can turn this back out, but it's so flimsy, It doesn't really matter if you do or don't. Like that. And you're going to turn this like this. Ooh. But not like that. Make sure the mouth is closed all the way. And finally, Snaptrap. Now his hands, the Automorph does not work in the opposite direction. And you'll want to put in the heel thingies, by the way. Now this thing, when it came in the box, these were all the way up like this. And initially, if you've never done this before, you know, it feels a little tight. What you want to do is force it past, okay? Because the little edge of this thing right there, just that bright spot just above my thumbnail, that's going to come into contact with that point right there. So it's advisable, don't push it back in all the way. Just let it sit there. Friction will hold it in place easily enough. Done. You want to open these up and peg that just like that. It's loose, so don't put too much pressure on there. Okay, let's put it all together. Now, a few minutes ago, I mentioned that the heads and these pegs that come out are all pretty much the same. Well, the reason that is so that you can use it as either a knee component or as a shoulder component. Get in just like that. And then finally, this top like this, and there you have Decepticon Piranacon. Articulation is as follows. The shoulders actually threw me off a little bit because you've got the shoulder joints for snap trap, okay? But then, oop, that's loose. But then you also have, this is awkward, but then you also have another joint on the inside, which ratchets only every 45 degrees. So the way I have Snaptrap's arms, because that's what these are, his upper arms, I have them set up so that they will give me a good range of motion right there. You can do it any way you want to, because you can do it like this and then turn the shoulder like this. You can do it that way if you want to, but it just gives me more range of motion if I do it that way, okay? So anyways, you can turn pretty much all the way around with these joints. And then the hips, ooh, what happened? Whoa. And then technically you can move it at the hips, but he's not going to balance on that, okay? Or not very steadily, okay? It's an option, but I wouldn't advise doing it because he's just not stable enough. Oh, and then, because these fists pegged in, you can also turn them all the way around if you want to, which is, hey, that's pretty nice. Now, let's talk about weapons for a moment here. We've got Piranacon's sword, which was usually found in the left hand, and it actually does snap into place here, although using C-Wing as the left arm component, the guard here, whatever it is, will actually bump up against his foot, the bottom of his foot. So there's a little bit of conflict there, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. And we also still have Snaptrap's rifle, which can peg into either hand. Not as securely as I would like, it just barely fits in there, but it'll hold once you get it in place. However, with the little bit of footage that I found of King Poseidon, and any pictures that I've found of Piranacon, he doesn't use Snaptrap's rifle, even though that is an option. Come on, get out of there. But he still needs a shooting weapon. So what did he use? Well, here's where things get interesting as far as weapons. Get this, Piranacon comes with 5 display stands. 5 of them. And each and every one of them is disassembled in the box. Pulling them apart again? Not so much. By the way, call me paranoid if you must, but this looks an awful lot like a rifle. And it's got a lot of pegs and stuff on it, so I think that these are multi-purpose, not just because they can be used for a display stand for Piranacon. That is only single purpose. And then Call me paranoid if you must, again, but this looks an awful lot like the foot of a Scramble City combiner, because it's got the peg hole just in the right spot or something like that. Kind of reminds me of the foot for Computron, you know? Anyways, these just peg in here, and you've got 5 of these to play with, okay? Well, why would they give you 5 of them? And what does this have to do with weapons? Well, it has a lot to do with weapons. You see, each of the 5 smaller Seacons not only has a beast mode and a robot mode and a combined mode, but it also has a weapon mode. So that actually makes these quad changers. However, I only see 1, 2, 3, 4 of the smaller Seacons sitting here. What happened to number 5? Well, Overbite is right here. Each and every one of the Seacons, the 4 smaller ones, is capable of transforming into weapon mode. Actually, I need to pull that out. And the reason it's called weapon mode is because it is designed to interact with the combined mode as a, well, weapon. And the reason that you have 5 display stands is so that you can carefully plug them in and display the 5 smaller Seacons all at the same time in weapon mode when Snaptrap is all by himself. I know, it sounds crazy to have 5 display stands in order to display 5 different weapon mode bots all at the same time, but you know, that's just how they did it. I mean, I don't know why you would want to do it at these times, and you can't really do it when they're in beast mode, and you probably can't do it when they're in robot mode. These display stands are specifically for weapon mode. But enough about display stands. Let's put this off to the side and let's attach it. Now you'll notice, perhaps you haven't noticed up to this point, but this is actually the configuration of limbs that is used for King Poseidon. This is what he actually looks like in the show, okay? Scalar is down here and Nautilus is up here, okay? And then we've got Tentakill and Seawing over here, okay? So this is how he officially appears in the show, alright? However, there are 2 reasons why it is that you don't see the toy photographed like this officially. The first reason is absolutely impossible to get that weapon in there, okay? You just can't do it. There's no space for it whatsoever. It gets nowhere near. See? Not getting anywhere, because you can't fold these over, even if you wanted to, and even then, you can't bend the arm, okay? It's absolutely impossible. So that's the first reason why I don't use Nautilus as the right arm. And now here's something else that's a little on the strange side. For both the original 1988 release and also for the 2008 Transformers Collectors Club Special Edition version, Nautilus was not included. Until 2010, American audiences always had to import Nautilus from Japan, whatever he was originally called, I don't care. So they didn't have this to work with, which means they only had 4 components. Which means that Overbite was usually seen in the regular configuration in the US only releases. Now, I think that Seawing used to be down here and this is up here. And like I said, there is no real complete 100% accurate configuration except for the one that I showed you a moment ago where I had Nautilus sitting here. As a matter of fact, in 1 or 2 official paintings that I've seen, Nautilus has often been in his weapon mode. Which, by the way, I should probably put him on a display stand while I'm talking about this. Like that, yeah. Nautilus is usually in his weapon mode. And then Overbite is over here. And then this is over here, and this is over here, and something like that. But again, up until 2008, American audiences never had Nautilus. And so those are the 2 big reasons why I prefer to have Piranacon arranged this way, is because I can fit Overbite better onto Scalar, and the legs from Nautilus don't get in the way of posing. Those are the 2 big reasons. Although Overbite doesn't fit very well on here as it is, but what can you do? Close enough. I usually don't leave a lot of time for discussing the packaging, but I wanted to bring this up real quickly. Here's the modern interpretation of the arrangement of the limbs, and you can see over here, hey, look at that, it's Overbite in purple. And this is a modern day photograph, not the G1 photographs or whatever it is. So clearly they had purple available, and clearly they chose to go with pink. What's unclear is why they chose to go with pink. Whatever. The configuration of the components right here, and here it is, again, he's purple, whatever. You can see Scalar over here, Nautilate over here. Here's a nice, big, detailed picture of Piranacon. That is sweet. It's very nice. With his purple sword as opposed to a pink sword over here. Nice box. Don't talk about them very often, but nice box. If you're a regular viewer of my videos on YouTube and CollectionDX.com, then you pretty well know that the last segment is usually one of my favorite parts of making these reviews. This is where I strip away all objectivity and I start leaning into things like compatibility with the different parts, the quality of materials, the quality of the gimmicks, what type of transformer it is, and just all around give you my 2 cents about the product to help you make a decision about whether or not you want to get one of these or you don't want to get one of these. Now, I can just hear you guys over there drooling over your keyboards in anticipation of this rant. There are so many things about this toy that Ava Unit 4A hates, and I cannot wait to hear what he has to say. This is going to be one of the most epic rants that he has ever done. Well, this time I'm going to have to disappoint. Because this time, I'm going to do it differently. You will not, at any point in this commentary, hear me complain about things like extra limbs, beast modes that are not realistic, you know, they have extra limbs and stuff on them, simplistic posability, simple transformations, kibble, integrating components, the gimmicks, the coloring, visual style, combiner kibble, or any of the other things that I tend to make a big deal about. And there is one very simple reason why you will not hear me complain about any of these things. And that is the age of this toy. Now, make no mistake, this is a reissue that came out in 2010. However, this toy comes from a completely different era. It comes from the beginning of the franchise, G1, 1986 to 1988, and to a somewhat lessened extent, G2 in the early 90s. And the Seacons were designed in a completely different era of toy design and manufacturing. The way that they were conceived, the way that they were built, the way that they were marketed is completely different from how it is 23 years later. Completely different. And I would never, ever, ever presume to hold these guys to the same standards that I would a toy which was designed and built in 2010 and 2011. Never. That would be disrespectful, dishonest, and dishonorable for me to even attempt to do any of that. And I'm not just saying this on video. No, I genuinely believe this. I did not get these toys with the expectations that I should be able to put them up next to, a Bayformer, which are some of the most complex Transformers that we have today, regardless of Deluxe, Scout, Leader class. I would never presume to put the Seacons up against one of those, because they come from 2 completely different generations of Transformers. I mean, the Seacons come from the debut of the franchise. Now, unfortunately, I missed out on a lot of that, and I'm sure there are a lot of trans fans who are going to see this thing, whether you regularly follow my reviews or not, who are going to say, I remember that age, and I didn't like it when they had these grand colors, and when they had these extra limbs, and when the kibble was sticking all over the place, and they had simple transformations. I cannot comment on that, because I missed all of G1, and I only just scratched the surface with G2. I didn't even know that G2 was primarily a comic book. I thought it was the TV series that came out in the early 90s when I saw it. In fact, I didn't seriously start collecting Transformers until Beast Wars in 96. I mean, that's where I got my start from. And I've said that in previous videos as well. And also, you will not be hearing me critique or criticize the decisions that were made 23 years ago by Hasbro and Takara, because I truly have little or no knowledge about that time. And I'm not going to attempt to pretend that I know what I'm talking about and try to override what other trans fans know upside down and inside out. I'm just not even going to try and compete with that. However, I do want to assure you all, ladies and gentlemen, that I have not entirely lost my mind. For all the things that I complain about Transformers in this day and age, kibble, parts forming, style changes, the way gimmicks work, for all those things, even though I give them a pass with the Seacons, I want to assure you all that I'm not establishing a double standard here. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. Despite what I've done a number of times just to promote something, I don't like getting toys that I don't like to begin with. Leader Class Jetfire from Revenge of the Fallen, for example, I knew going into it that I was going to hate that thing, and sure enough, I hated it all the way through, even to when I put it back in the box. Just about all those toys from Tenso Sentai Goseiger that I did last year, I was secretly retching in the background every time the camera wasn't rolling. I mean, those things were terrible. I truly do not get toys that I don't like. I don't have enough space on my shelves anymore to do that kind of thing, and I never really did it to begin with. Even my Power Rangers and Super Sentai collection, there are gaps in the shelves there. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that I did not get this toy just because I'm trying to promote a web store exclusive. That's not at all why I got this. I got this toy because I like it. I mean, regardless of all the passes that I give it on Kibble and things like that, yeah, I don't like those things, but I'm not going to apply the standards of today to designs that are 23 years old. Now, for the past few minutes, I've just gone over that. But I also have nostalgia for this toy. If I could not tolerate the simplified transformations, all of the kibble and the beast modes and the robot modes and the combined forms and the way they combine with each other and the various gimmicks that goes into each of these, you know, how they combine or how the weapons fit together, if I had enough of an issue with the Seacons, you would not be watching this video right now because I would not have this toy. I got this toy for me. I got this toy because I like it, because I wanted to get it. So don't think that I'm going back on my own words by liking toy that's 23 years old and has all these crazy problems with it when I hate it in the toys that I collect today. No. I got the Seacons because I like them. 5 different display stands. Okay, that's kind of pushing it. I'm still scratching my head over that one, but whatever. Now, I'm going to be going into some unfamiliar territory here, talking about a reissue. This toy is a reissue. The molds for this toy still come from 1988. As far as I can tell, there's been no changes in the mold or anything like that. There's been no changes to the color scheme except for overbite. However, there is something that I can and will critique with this toy. Despite the fact that the designs are 23 years old, this is a reissue, which means it was recently rebuilt using the original designs. Here is my problem with it. Hasbro and Takara Tomy have had these molds, these designs, for 23 years. Well, 22 because it was reissued in 2010. Here it is, 2011. They've had these molds for so long, and they've gotten feedback on them when they were originally released, and I'm sure they've listened to all the critiques or whatever on the web boards now. They've had them all this time, and they're going to be putting them back out, but the one thing I don't get is when they had the chance, why didn't they try and fix all of the flaws that have been in the designs ever since 1988? I distinctly remember with Scalar, getting his fists out of the bottom of the feet there were incredibly difficult back in 1980. They're incredibly difficult right now. Flipping Overbite's ankle joint in order to transform him, flipping his head down, flipping his beast mode head down, you really got to fight that thing to get it through. The same thing with the top of the head on Tentakill. And with Piranacon and its hips and in the knee connection points in particular, there's a lot of misalignment in there, things that could have been readjusted and tweaked oh so slightly so that he would stand a little more evenly, that his hips wouldn't be shifted in a weird fashion. These are all things that could have been done with redesigning the molds. I'm not saying redesign them completely, just go in there and fix the little itty bitty inconsistencies and the difficulties that were in the original molds. Go in there and fix those things before you reissue it. That's the thing that I don't get. Why didn't they go in there and fix those little problems? I mean, about 95% of this toy is spot on as far as consistency with joints and the coloring and the mold designs and things like that, but it's those joints and how things connect together that's questionable, and why didn't they fix those things before they put the toy back out 23 years later? That is just something that today I will complain about, because they had plenty of time to take care of it, and they didn't. The other modern day critique that I'm going to put in here is that I really don't like how Overbite's purple was removed to give us more pink. There's an awful lot of pink on this thing. Why did they remove the purple? I mean, did they not have enough purple plastic or something? It's just weird. And having those collectible trading cards was really sweet. And not just one for each of the individual Seacons, but there was one for Piranacon as well. That's pretty awesome. I want to tell you something kind of important, though. Piranacon has inspired in me a real warm feeling of nostalgia. And it's not just, oh, it's a cute little toy, but it deeply touches in some ways the foundations of my own interest in Transformers. Not just brand name Transformers from Hasbro and Takara Tomy, but, you know, Power Rangers, Super Sentai, what else do I have? Not much else. But giant robots that combine with each other and that they change shape from one form to another, and the glorious little puzzles that they used to be and that they are now. Piranacon in some fashion has reawakened the fun of owning a Transformer. It's reminded me of something that's perhaps been lost in the past, that the fun of being a kid and getting one of these things and playing around with it. It's just, I keep saying the word fun, but it's true. What's the phrase I used in the text review? Giddy as a schoolboy, which I got from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, by the way. And I'm certainly not a schoolboy anymore, but I was certainly giddy as one, I think, when I opened up that cardboard box from Big Bad Toy Store. That was just, that felt good, and I haven't felt that in a long time. That was really awesome. Okay, this video has run way longer than I intended it to, as is usually the case. So I think this will be a good place to stop. And by the way, when they say that it is a BigBadToyStore.com exclusive, they mean it. I went to Hasbro.com to look up the stats and information things. The only thing I could find on Hasbro.com was the instructions. And that was it. I mean, they don't sell the toy. It truly is a BigBadToyStore.com exclusive. But you know what? They're not paying me to pimp the site, but I'm going to do it anyways, because I've dealt with them on numerous occasions. And the CollectionDX staff, I've gotten to know them pretty well. They're good folks over there. And I'd like to pass a very quick special thank you out to Josh B., my boss over at CollectionDX, for holding this toy review in reserve for me. Josh, as usual, you are the man. And so, this is AV Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com, signing off.